ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Carolina Conservatives. We are Preachers with a Punch, and we are coming back to you again with another wild and wonderful episode. I'm telling you what, we have just been hitting left and right, and we have just been dealing with a lot of some of the slings and arrows that come our way. But you know what? We're just so used to that now that we say, bring it. We're welcoming it. Come on, bring it to us now, baby. I'm Dr. Nathan Street.
I'm Pastor Alan Mashburn. Thank you for joining us today. These episodes seem to be farther apart, but we do our best to get you everything that we can, anytime we can. We are certainly dealing with varied schedules now, but we have a special guest with us today, Nikki Tuttle. I first met her at the North Carolina GOP convention. And she is a student at Guildford College. She is a political science major, and she's been involved with a number of areas in the political forum and square. And so we're going to learn more about her, and we're also going to be looking at how an organization that we all know something about, that was formed with completely good ideals, has now chosen to take a woke position.
We're thrilled to have you with us today. And why don't you just start out with it? Yeah, just kind of just tell us about 4-H. What is 4-H all about?
So 4-H, as a 4-H member since I was 5 years old, and I aged out when I was 18, 4-H is a youth development organization that helps teach kids by learning by doing, hands-on learning, career opportunities, job opportunities, lots of learning skills, leadership skills, public speaking skills, all of that in between. It's definitely a large youth development organization.
Okay. So what are you starting to see amongst this youth development organization? Because, you know, we're seeing in the culture nowadays that we're starting to see some of those things that are starting to creep in, especially with youth development in our schools, particularly where some of the woke indoctrination that has been occurring in our schools. It's like these people are going full bore after our kids, you know.
They
and
are.
So what are you starting to see, you know, maybe as a college student, but also as a 4-H, and kind of combine those two for us what are you seeing there on the ground?
Sure. So as a 4-H'er since I was 5, I definitely can say that the participation rate in 4-H has decreased dramatically. 2016 was honestly the best year of 4-H, in my opinion, especially in North Carolina, where we had at least 500 kids attend the statewide North Carolina 4-H Conference in Raleigh at NC State campus. And I just recently got back from North Carolina 4-H Congress this past year. And there were a little less than 200 kids at that conference. The parents definitely don't want to have their kids in a organization that is going to brainwash them. And it shouldn't. 4-H is not about politics. 4-H is about youth development, and politics should not be involved in a youth development organization.
So what sort of things exactly are you seeing? Like, are they talking about like this gender ideology stuff, this racial equity sort of thing that is sort of creeping in? Are those some of the things that you're seeing, or is it something even more different than that?
Yes. So in 4-H, we do a lot of workshops for the kids. And in the workshops, we do see a lot of gender inequality talk, a lot of racial inequality talk. And mind you, these kids are 11, 12, 13, and they don't know any better as a kid. But they're being taught these, woke ideologies as a kid in these workshops. And it's being taken to the conferences and to the conventions that 4-H holds statewide, district-wide, and county-wide. These kids are seeing it on a daily basis in 4-H.
Nikki, I've talked to several who I'm going to call whistleblowers, people who have been involved in the workshops or teachers, and they have sent me some of the the pictures that they're being shown on the screen, and just some of the things that you've been mentioning. About a month ago, we took maybe a longer than that, but we took this a little bit step further. We started climbing the ladder of the NC State, found out where everything was coming from, found the executive director of 4-H for the state. We reached out to him. I even employed 2 people on the Council of State, one being the state treasurer, in helping me get to the bottom of why this DEI is being implanted into a 4-H club. I mean, we're talking about 4-H, something
Right.
that was founded to be very useful and very hands-on, but it's being implanted in there to basically indoctrinate. I never got the executive director to ever respond to me. But I did speak with 2 or 3 people that had conversations with him. And the general conversation went like this: he's doing his job. It's coming down from Washington because 4-H is a federal program that has been given to land grant universities, and that is who North Carolina State is. So it's never going to change unless it's changed on the federal level. But the quip he gave was, if you don't like what's going on, which the general conversation was he didn't either, but he's doing his job, run for office, change things what they are. And of course, that's the broader picture. But here's the point: we didn't stop there as a campaign, as a podcast. We didn't stop there. So we found out that counties were funding 4-H. Mm. And as precious as 4-H is and has been in the past, it still requires some county funding on the local levels. So we've been talking to some county officials because we basically hit a ceiling here in this state. Even with the legislature, we went to the legislature, and they did their research with their legal team. There is no way to control that because it's coming down from the Biden administration. Give me a feel of the frustration that you have seen inside 4-H, that this is just being forced on people.
Right. So I'm glad that you mentioned leadership. First, I want to talk about how 4-H is definitely a fantastic organization. Great youth development skills for those kids. It's a great organization with job opportunities, career opportunities, and it's completely endless. I mean, even after you age out of 4-H, it's still, you've got job opportunities, career opportunities all the way as an adult. But leadership, as you mentioned, leadership in 4-H definitely has been a little bit too inclusive with opinions and ideas. And I do believe that that's the reason we are in a struggle that we are in today with 4-H and legislator. The leadership is a little bit too inclusive. They add on to the bylaws, they add on to the Constitution of 4-H. And some of those things that have been added to the Constitution of 4-H and the bylaws should not have been added. Opinions are taken a little bit too much.
Let me just put this out there the way that I like to just, I'm just going to lay it out. Yes, I get it that this stuff is being pushed down from the Biden administration. I get that. There's a way though for you to introduce those items that are forced upon you by the federal government and sort of check the box without you actually endorsing and buying into it. You can definitely say, all right, here's what the federal government requires us to say about CRT, about LGBT rights, about the gender pronouns and the gender ideology and all that sort of stuff. Here's what we have to say about it, and gender equity, and here's what we have to say about it. But now let me talk to you about what it really means to be a leader in incorporating this, and what we have to do to resist this sort of ideology. There's a way to do that. Why are we not seeing more people willing to stand up and do that?
4-H leadership trickles down from DC. It's in every state. Leadership has their own state. It's the same way government works. You have leadership in DC, you have leadership in counties, you have leadership in state, you have leadership in cities. And I do believe that the ideology of all of these woke ideas definitely have trickled down from DC to the state, to the counties, to the districts, to the cities. And that is what is being taught to these kids in 4-H. And, you know, to answer your question about why we don't have a lot of 4-Hers and parents standing up to the woke ideology in 4-H, I think that really honestly, we have seen a stand up, in my opinion. And the reason I say that is because, like I mentioned, 4-H back when I was a 4-Her, we had much more participation than what we have now. I do think that COVID definitely had a huge impact on 4-H and the COVID guidelines that 4-H followed. The parents didn't want their kids to go to a workshop and be forced to wear a mask and forced to follow those guidelines in a workshop. 4-H teaches hands-on learning. How are you supposed to learn hands-on learning if you can't stand 6 feet away from your kid, from your friends? You know, so a lot of those guidelines really did affect 4-H and the participation. And I'm not sure if you've heard about, there was a situation in 4-H where there was a transgender kid that was in a cabin at a 4-H camp with girls. And the parent did file a lawsuit. So that was a huge effect on 4-H and the 4-H camps that we have, and the participation level.
So let's talk about that just for a moment. What's the outcome of that lawsuit? Do we know?
That I am not sure of. I have not followed up on that.
So I'm curious, Nikki, when these sort of topics come up of transgender and gender ideology, the pronouns, all that garbage, CRT, all that comes up. These topics come up. What are the actual words, the verbiage that these leaders are being forced to say to students?
Pronouns.
Pronouns is the main thing.
Thing.
That everybody has to respect somebody else's pronouns, no matter what they are and what they think they are. They have to respect them and they have to abide by them.
Correct.
Wow. So let me just break this down. And I know this sounds very pedantic, but I want to go there. Okay. So just follow along with me. So I look the way that I look, and let's say I am a 4-Her right now. And I come into the meeting and I say, my pronouns are she, her. You must, as a 4-Her, you must use my pronouns as she, her.
Correct.
And I must be allowed to go into the women's bathroom and the women's cabins, the girls' cabins, and be able, even me looking exactly the way I look, I need to be able to stay in those women's cabins.
Correct.
That's what I thought. And so this is the insanity that we are facing. So look.
And tomorrow I have the liberty to change my pronouns and be anything I want.
That's right. You know, so this is the insanity that I think everybody needs to understand right now is, look, we're dealing with 12, 13, 14-year-old boys and girls, particularly boys. All right. I are one. I used to be one. I'll say that. So I can speak a little more about that. Maybe try me tomorrow. Maybe my pronouns will be she, her. But, you know, but look, if I'm a 12-year-old boy, the hormones are raging, and I just want to be in the cabin with the girl, hey, you know, or I'm at 4-H with one of my girlfriends, and, you know, look, here's the danger now is that this boy could say, you know, my pronouns are she, her. I need to be in the cabin with over there with the girls. What happens when those 12, 13, 14-year-old girls come back home pregnant? Who gets sued for that then?
Yes. So with that being said, and I'm glad that you said all of this, because there are a lot of 4-Hers now. Mind you, I'm not that old quite yet, and I did just age out of 4-H not that long ago. And a lot of my 4-H friends that were in 4-H with me are not pleased. We are not pleased with that. It's very uncomfortable. to have to be forced to follow, to say pronouns and call someone by what they want to be called, and to follow the guidelines that don't make any sense.
What if you refuse, Nikki? What if you, again, I'm she, her, and you refuse to call me she, her? What happens to you?
So I have to say, with that situation, I've never run into a situation where someone has refused to follow the guidelines. And I think it's because 4-H as itself is such a respectable organization as is, just because of the foundation that it has and the impact that it's had on all of us kids growing up. So I've never really run into a situation where someone has refused. So not really sure how they would handle that. But I believe, like I said, the participation level in 4-H is their way of refusing.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, because 4-H is such a great organization, fantastic way to grow your kid and round out your kid and make sure that they have leadership skills, public speaking skills, all of these talents. And the participation level is hurting.
As it should. Because parents should take the bull by the horns and say, you know what, my child is not going to be subjected to that. And here's the terrible part of it. 4-H has been a bastion of it's been a bastion of truth in many areas, and great things for children growing up. And now it's been tainted by this. We now have a government who's pushing this on to us, wanting us to acknowledge someone's delusion or fictitious thoughts or thinking or whatever you want to call it. But it's not reality, and it's doing nothing but tearing down not only the foundation of the country, but it's tearing down every good thing that we've ever had. And it's just ridiculous.
It is. And I mean, we're being forced to play pretend with these people.
Yes.
Who are, whose parents particularly are mentally deranged.
And if you push back, you're racist.
Exactly. Or a bigot. And folks, in looking at it comes down to this, that, it's really not the children. The children are being children. The children are going to play into whatever benefits them. And so, they're not sufficiently cognitively developed to be able to distinguish between, to be able to, they really cannot. The psychology has shown us this for years. We've known this for years, that children all the way up to age 26 even, and I'm sorry, Nikki, you're not quite to 26 yet, I know, but, as an educational psychologist myself, I can tell you that until we all get to the age of 26, our brains are not fully developed, and that we are not able to, especially at age 12, 13, 14, to project consequences of the future yet. Children are not able to do that yet. And so when they are making these sorts of decisions, they're making these decisions without the physical and mental ability to tell them, here's what the consequences of this decision will be in 20 years. They don't know. But parents, on the other hand, do have that ability. So these are parents who are deluded and deranged to play into this and allow their children to play this sort of dangerous game. And, I kind of see this sort of thing will happen in college. I'm a college professor. College students experiment. That's what they've always done. You're in college, Nikki. How have you kept from going in this insane direction? I just heard a statistic the other day. This is scary now. This is scary. Millennials in this country. We're looking at almost 45% of millennials in this country think that it should be a crime, punishable by the law, for you to refuse to use gender pronouns. That is scary. How have you kept yourself from going in that insane
Lock me up.
I'm gonna say something pretty funny. I have made it a joke. So on each and every of my assignments as a political science major at Guildford College, I am required to put my pronouns at the top of every paper that I turn in. So with that being said, I have put different pronouns on every assignment that I've ever turned in at Guildford College. They have no idea what I am. They have no idea. And I just make it a joke. I make it a joke. I laugh it off. I know my morals and my values close to myself in my own head. And that's the way I handle it. That is the way I handle it. I just laugh it off, do what I can to get out of there. And that's all I can do.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what does the Quaker Church think of Guildford College requiring you to do this?
Good question. So actually at Guildford College, I have to say, they teach a lot of Quaker history, but not enough. So I'm not real informed on that topic just because with my political science studies, I've been so locked in on that, and we haven't learned any of that.
Yeah, so the Friends Church, really, we have no idea what they think of this. And really, we don't even know if they even know about all this, to be quite honest with you, because sometimes these churches are so divorced from their universities now. What are you seeing on the ground there at an institution like Guildford College? How does your colleagues, your classmates, are they embracing of this sort of ideology, or do they think that it's a big joke as well?
They think it's a big joke as well. This is the thing. If you walked around campus at Guildford College and you asked every student there if they thought that the ideology of the wokeism that's being taught was a joke, they would say yes. And it was actually really surprised me when I first got to school. I was expecting a lot of liberals as colleagues and students and friends when I first got there, but I'm really surprised. Really surprised. There are a lot of conservatives my age.
It's the professors. It's the adults.
Professors.
See, I mean, it truly is. It's
leadership. The leadership at any institution.
Well, it's refreshing to hear you say that there are people out there who actually are able to think for themselves and see this as for what it is. The sad thing here is I'm gonna go here in two different prongs. One, it's terrible that we have professors in higher education that are ruining our youth that's being put out into the world. And let me tell you, Nikki, you and your classmates are the exception. This is not happening everywhere. And thank God that you have critical thinking skills and a foundation instilled by your home life that you're able to tell truth from fiction, because that's what this is. And I won't ever stop going there and calling it that, because that's what it is. It's fiction. Yes. And we need a good dose of reality here in this country. Secondly, shame on the Biden administration and the federal government for ruining or seeking to ruin a great organization like 4-H, who has been the bedrock for much of our youth in the past 3 and 4 decades and beyond. It is terrible. It is horrendous. We started attacking that, and we started exposing that, and we even got some elevation on that from a periodical online called the Daily Haymaker. And recently we got a phone call from the reporters there and said, "What happened with that? That was going great. That was going good. Why did you stop?" We stopped because we reached a place that we realized it was the federal government, and there was nowhere else to appeal to for relief unless you, and which we did. We reached out to our senators, but as you know, in North Carolina, we only have one good one. So we reached a point that we had to start going to county commissioner levels, because once they figured this out, they would even talk about defunding it. And they've not given me the county commissioners that I have talked to. They've not given me the liberty to disclose anything, because they're still working on their budget, some of them. But you hate to do that in one regard, because the program has been around forever. It's been a great thing for children. It's been a great thing for parents. It's been a great thing for homeschoolers. But yet there is no mechanism for us as the public to fight back against this, and parents to fight back. You either take a stand or you comply, or you take your children out.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to us 4-Hers that have been in 4-H since we were real little. And all of a sudden, that's the only way that we can refuse against these guidelines and this woke ideology in 4-H is by not participating.
Right.
And like I mentioned, 4-H has lots of opportunities, job opportunities, career opportunities, not just for kids, but even in adult life. And to not participate is heartbreaking.
There's something else you can do. And Nikki, it's probably people like you that are going to be the ones to do this. By the way, here's another stat, which, Nikki, I think you would probably fall into the Gen Z category. I think that you're younger than millennials. So millennials, for some reason, went a little crazy. But Gen Zers, less of them think that it should be a crime to use pronouns. I mean, considerably less, like in the 30% range, which is still scary. Mm-hmm. But yet we can see that this sort of shift, the pendulum is starting to shift back again. Mm-hmm. And so I think, Nikki, that here's the thing that what's going to come down to. All of the good stuff of 4-H, and there's a lot of it, is going to require us as conservatives, you as a conservative young person, to create a parallel program, a 4-H for kids to get the leadership skills that they so desperately need in this day and hour without all the wokery. And you're just going to have to create a program that is like 4-H, beside a 4-H, to actually give those children the opportunity to do that. We're seeing so many of our conservative organizations now that are creating these alternative programs and offerings and resources that are going to be devoid of this garbage. And it's just going to have to come down to it. And Nikki, I think that somebody like you, with the leadership skills that you have, the convictions that you have shown us already today, that this might be a mantle for you with your political science background to pick up this mantle and say, you know what, let's just start a different 4-H without all the garbage. And that's going to teach those kids the leadership skills they need. Have you thought of that?
No, actually. So, I have to say, I think it's a great idea. And honestly, I've seen a lot of it as well. There's 4-H clubs in counties that have already started. Now they are still through the 4-H organization, but they have started and they are very, very conservative and they do not follow those guidelines that the state gives. But I have to say, like I said, with me being a 4-Her, and I have lots of 4-H friends that are huge conservatives, and they still stand by their morals and values, even growing up in 4-H with those wokeism guidelines. There's enough of us to take over the leadership in 4-H. Good. That I believe that we could save the organization without creating another one, just because 4-H has a great foundation, and we don't want to ruin that. It's heartbreaking. We don't want to ruin that.
Point well taken. And I believe that. I believe that too. So a hostile takeover from within.
Right. Yeah. And I hate that it's come to that. It's really, really sad.
But it is come to that, though. And now's the time. This is the time. Are we going to take a stand? And I'm calling on every 4-H club out there and every leader to just look at the federal government and say, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to preach and teach this ideology to these kids because I don't believe in it. And I believe that it is a lie. And my faith does not allow me to lie to people that is a sin. So I'm not going to do that. I challenge all the 4-H clubs out there to just rebel against the federal government. And yes, the federal government may pull their money. So be it. Take the money. You've still got the 4-H. There'll be other ways to fund this sort of thing. There are people out there that are going to be looking for opportunities to train up the next generation, because Lord knows if we don't train this next generation, your generation, Nikki, and the generation that's coming after you, to be the leaders when Alan and I are in the nursing home, you all are going to be the one, and we're not that far from it, to be quite honest with you.
You'll be in the nursing home, I'll be dead.
Yeah, I know we might be dead by that time. So y'all are going to be the ones that's going to have to take the reins of this country. And where's it going to go? If we don't take those stand and just say, look, rebel, look, we're not going to do what you say, King, anymore. We'll throw the tea in the harbor if that's what it comes down to.
I was going to say, it's not like that hadn't been done before. That's how our forefathers formed this nation.
Yeah.
Right. History repeats itself if you teach
Nikki,
it the right way.
It's time for y'all to throw the tea in the harbor. It's time for y'all to say, look, we're just not going to do this anymore. And yeah, that tea cost a whole lot of money. It was very valuable. People bought that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And to see that floating around the harbor, we got to take a stand like that. It's got to be a shock value. And you all, at the leaders, to take over the leadership of these clubs and those who are already in the leadership of these clubs, it's time to produce some shock value and start throwing some tea in the harbor. We're not doing it anymore.
Correct. Yeah. And I have to say, with the, my generation of kids and what I've seen so far, and I know a lot of kids my age, I'm very surprised. And every single person that I meet that doesn't have faith in us and my generation and knowing that we are conservative and we hold our values very close. We do have faith in us.
Amen.
Well, as we close out, let me say that we need to put out in the forefront here. There are great people in 4-H that are not going with the flow. They are going against it. And I've met some of those great people. Nikki is one of them, but we have great people around us as well. Today, we've had Nikki Tuttle with us. She made a great impression upon me at the North Carolina GOP convention. She is not considered what I consider normal. She is one who goes against the flow. She is one that stands out. We need people who stand out. We need people who stand up and people who just won't take what's in the Kool-Aid. They will critically think for themselves, and they're able to discern what is truth versus fiction or truth versus theory. And so it's been an honor to have Nikki Tuttle with us today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, Nikki. It's been an honor to have you. One last question real quick.
Sure.
You planning to run for office sometime?
I sure am.
Oh, okay.
That's been my dream since I was 8 years old. I've been working on it ever since.
Wow. Well,
Yep.
Where are you headed?
Hopefully House of Representatives in North Carolina.
All right. All right.
That's a great place to start. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the age limit?
25.
25. So you're almost there. How old are you now?
20. Mm-hmm.
All right. 5 more years.
Five more years. I got this.
Just keep building your name. Keep getting involved in campaigns and stuff like that. That's how you do it. You'll build your name.
Absolutely.
You be a warrior. Be a warrior. Don't stop. Do not hold back at all. Do not pull punches. Keep on.
As long as we have people like Nikki who is willing to get out there and do that, then America can survive. America can thrive.
Yes.
There's lots of us. There's lots of us. More than you think. Have
Good.
faith.
Good.
Awesome. Folks, look, this is encouraging. I hope you've been encouraged. Yeah, and I know we've talked about some really hard issues, and it sounds bleak and dark all the time, when we're talking about all this woke garbage that's taken over our institutions, the staples of our community like 4-H and our colleges and universities. But look, folks, God's always got people. He's always got somebody who's going to stand up. He always has the Elijah when the Ahabs of the world are ruling, and Ahab has his own 400 prophets surrounding him, telling him everything he wants to hear. God always has an Elijah whose word seems to travel a whole lot further than those priests that tell the king everything he wants to hear. Nikki is turning into that Elijah moment, where she is standing up and sounding the clarion call and saying, look, folks, this is what's happening, and here's how we're going to fight it, and we're going to stand up against it. These are the people that we need to get behind, our 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds who are coming up, who are the next generation to lead this country, lead our states. And folks, these are people that we should be encouraged by right here. I am encouraged today, definitely, even in the face of all the darkness and the clouds and the fire and brimstone that we see on the horizon. We've still got people, we've still got Elijahs standing in the gap and taking the stand for what's right. And I'm very encouraged by that. Folks, we are here at Carolina Conservatives Preachers with a Punch. We're bringing you people like this, these young people who are just dynamic. They're on fire, and we are going to get behind them and just fan those flames even more. Say that 3 times fast. Fan those flames even more, and creating someone who's going to go out and be a beacon for this generation. Folks, let's get behind folks like this. Let's get behind people running for office like Lieutenant Governor. Oh, but look at there. I just called things the way they were. The running for Lieutenant Governor, Alan Mashburn, Pastor Alan Mashburn, who will soon be Reverend Lieutenant Governor Alan Mashburn. That is what we're looking for. And so let's get behind these people and let's support them. I'm Dr. Nathan Street.
And I'm Pastor Alan Mashburn. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to coming back to you very soon.